All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again for this media engagement. As the media operator would have indicated, this is really to discuss matters surrounding the selection of the test squad to New Zealand, some other areas in terms of World Cup preparation for the ICC T20 World Cup next year and 19 World Cup, and also a bit about the ongoing CG United Super 50 Cup that would have started yesterday. Just to remind everyone, my name is Randy Howard. I'm the PR Media Manager. And with me today, I have Senior Talent Manager Jamal Smith, and of course, Head Coach Daren Sammy. They'll be the ones fielding any questions today, but we will start first with a bit of background and some sharing of information. I'll go straight to Jamal, who's going to talk a bit about the test preparation camp that we had here in Antigua, and also a bit about the Super 50 Cup, the talent ID process there, and of course, the World Cup preparation. So I'll hand over to Jamal now.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning to some, everyone. My job is pretty simple. It's just to create some context around the test preparation heading into New Zealand. As you would have been aware, we would have had 9 guys here. It's really a part of our thrust to give our test-oriented players some more preparation for the perceived conditions. We try our best to replicate here in Antigua, in this instance, what could be an offer in New Zealand in terms of the pitch preparation. Some lovely green tracks here, and we focus on the technical areas that would have been handed down from the senior team staff, that is Daren Sammy and company, backing coach Lloyd Reefer, bowling coach Ravi Rampal, and obviously some technical analysis from the statistician Avanesi Taram. So it was a compilation of that information that was handed down to the academy staffing, and we then tried to focus on those areas in terms of the facilitation. Like I said, we would have had 9 guys. Some of them would have been out of competition for a while, as is no secret. The names like Kemar Roach, around in particular, Kevin Hodge, who've been out of action for a while. So it's ready to get some mileage onto the legs and some balls onto the bat, so to speak. I think that preparation went reasonably well. Another added addition as well is that we actually had footage relay. So senior team staff could in real time see what was going on. Here the cameras are now posted, and obviously they can play back and along with the players and so on. So we really tried to encompass the technical aspect, but this initiative is really on the back of the other 2 initiatives that we would have tried to start as far as camps are concerned in preparation. As you know, we would have been just in Bangladesh as well and India, and we would have had that back in camp in Chennai. So it's really our thrust to really move towards getting as much preparation in, albeit that the calendar, the yearly calendar is very tight. But the test guys, they give us an opportunity, especially ones that play specifically test, they gave us an opportunity this time to get in some pretty intensive work. So pretty pleased about what we saw as far as preparation is concerned and professionalism. We have to see how that translates in a couple of days' time. Moving swiftly into the talent identification process for the CG United Super Cup, 50 Over Cup. We have 3 territorial IDs on the ground right now. Iman Khan, he's doing some work for us in that area. We have Rajendra Mandali, who's been recently appointed chairman of selectors for the Trinidad franchise, and we have Henderson Boones there as well, the Barbadian chief selector. Really the aim from the Super 50, as we all know who scored runs yesterday and so on and so forth, but the aim of the process really is to deepen the depth charting pool, especially as the senior men's team heads towards 2027 with that World Cup in mind. So the Super 50 really is, setting the context for any additional personnel that could fit the roles and the skill sets that have been identified by the coaching senior team staff, and then try to incorporate those guys into the system. Might not be necessarily integrated into the team, but the reports from the territorial talent IDs how they've seen certain passages of play and so on, and the acumen of some of these players in real time, hopefully give us some critical information so we can deepen our depth charts. As far as the under 19 preparation is concerned towards the World Cup, as you know, the under 19s won again yesterday. They're now 2-love up against the England team, coming off of the back of a 4-3 series victory against Sri Lanka. That team is progressing reasonably well. We would have made 3 changes to the overall squad with the addition of Tulikani, Tennis Francis, and Deshaun James. Just to get actually grading between just to get a better look at some of the roles and skill sets that we're looking to exploit going into that World Cup. And so far, the team has been operating reasonably well, and we've thrown a lot of support behind them in all aspects, really the full gamut here at CWA in terms of nutrition, in terms of leadership capacity. There have been some review sessions by Captain Joshua Dawn, getting them accustomed to the data analytics and so on, and the way the team. The preparation camps before, which would have been operated through the franchises, the territorial franchises, through the pathway coaching system. They would have had their plans and programs pretty much like how we just did here at the test camp. That would have come down from the staff, which actually includes the head coach, Johan Nurse. Obviously, we have Jerome Taylor there as well, and we have Nikita Miller there as well, trying to just get that mentorship aspect going with former West Indian players. There's also Devon Smith on the ground in Grenada as a batting consultant, and Junior Murray is also doing some work with the team as well. So we try to surround these guys with a lot of support, with people who've been there and they've done that, and we're certainly trying to expand these guys' horizons as far as high performance planning, programming, and execution is concerned, because we would have noted that post on the 19, as everybody probably can attest to, we always seem to lose vast majority of the players, and we're trying to close that gap and close that percentage of players lost, and we're trying to introduce them to more high performance based initiatives, and hopefully keep this group, most of this group, if not the entire group, around for the foreseeable future. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from my end.
All right, thanks, Jamal. Now I will move over to head coach Daren Sammy, who really will want to start off by giving us his insights in terms of the test squad, and I'm sure he'll want to talk a bit also about the India series, Bangladesh, and the ongoing white ball series, or that just to hopefully conclude the white ball series in New Zealand. Coach.
Thank you very much, Randy. And yes, although it's morning to me, I'm assuming yes, it's about afternoon to everyone in the Caribbean. Before I go into the test squad, I'd just like you said, just to touch brief on what we're coming down to the end of the year. India test squad, India tester, and what transpired in India. Although in the first test match, we were quite disappointed in the way that we played on surfaces that probably was similar to what we'd face in the Caribbean. So that first test, I think we didn't play well to our standards at all. The conditions were not anything that were threatening. We just didn't respond well. But what transpired after that, heading to Delhi, was a real fight put up by the West Indies team, especially in the second innings, where I think that was the highest score in India for over a decade, I think, in the second inning of a match. Obviously, the brilliance of Shea Hope and John Campbell upon returning to international cricket earlier this year against Australia. He scored his first test 100, and also Shea Hope scoring his third after, I think, his exploits in Headley in 2017. But I just want to put some context to what happened in India from a bowling standpoint. Before the toss started, we received two massive blows. Obviously, the injury to Alzari Joseph, rather the two Josephs, Alzari and Shomar, who over the last year were the spearhead of our attack with Jaden Sills, and what this trio was able to do over the last year. It was very integral to us getting 20 wickets. But I'm not one to making excuses, but that affected our bowling quite well, quite heavily, with the inexperience we had of Johan Lane and making his debut and the St. Philip probably playing his sixth or so test match. But I thought the guys responded well to in the second test. Getting accustomed. Some of the things that we continue to do, the work we continue to put in. While it's on tour, it really showed off in the batting department. After that series, I tried to find ways to see how best we could, get knowledge. Teams who are doing well and great things. The India coach came about, just speaking to the guys about, some of the things that, international cricket really, really demands of you. And sometimes in a working environment, you need to find ways to make sure that your guys are really understanding what the demands require. So we ended India. Yes, we didn't win, but I think the fight and the manner in which we played Test cricket was good signs. And we followed that to Bangladesh. We had a ODI series, again in challenging conditions, but I think it's a series that we could have won, especially the way the pitches that were brought to us. The guys in the first ODI, chasing just over 200. I thought getting to 75 for one was a really good position. But again, challenges of spin really got the better of us. The second ODI, Shea Hope, really stood tall in the middle. I think it's the game where, because of the conditions, we became the first team to bowl 50 overs of spin. You saw Alec Atenes bowling the best spell in there. But overall, we trying to be a competitive and winning side outside of the Caribbean in ODI cricket. Something since 2023 we've been able to do at home, but the challenges in other conditions continue to be continues to challenge us, and we keep getting close in winning series away. The guys did really well in the T20 series, because I think creating history, first team for a long time to actually blackwash Bangladesh at home. Fast track to New Zealand, which we are here now. It's been, how would I put it, a bit disappointing, because in 5 out of the 6 games that we've played here on tour in New Zealand, we've been in really good positions to win, but we've not been able to cross that line. And it's something we continue to work on. In the first game, we were able to defend the lowest score at Eden Park, but we keep putting ourselves in positions to win, like I said, but we've not been able to do that. And it's a bit frustrating, to be honest. But it's a challenge we got to face, that. And I must commend Miles and CWI. Some of the areas that we've been really working on is the mental aspect of the game, and we now have a therapist on tour, really dedicated to that, and he's already putting in his work with the guys. So hopefully, sooner than later, we could see, the areas making good decisions under pressure. Problem solving when things become difficult. How we use and connect our minds with the skill set that we have to make good decisions. So it's one area of the game that I'm really excited and looking forward to improving some of the performances and the mindset that now drives the skill set in our guys. And in that period, some good things have happened. Some of the ways that we want to play with the challenges that these conditions bring, we continue to look better and better at each game. So the test series is upon us, one that will also pose another challenge. But you heard about the preparation, and again, is something that trying to maximize the resources that we have. These guys in the handovers, as soon as the test boys left in India, we started preparing them for the next test, and that's where Jamal and the role of the academy and the facilities over in Antigua and the coaches that they have, the specific work for the conditions started. So by the time these guys get here to Floyd, Ravi, myself, they're in a position and have had volumes and have started prepared in a way that we would want them to play against New Zealand. So, because we've seen guys get better on tour whilst the game started, they go deeper into the series. So we're hoping that that method we've started would come to fruition in the test series, and then now obviously the squad name, and again hampered with injuries still to our premier fast bowlers, and we had to look for qualities that could be effective for us, and obviously a senior pro in Kemar Roach, especially in these conditions there in New Zealand, became very with the absence of Alzari and Shoma, his experience and his knowledge became quite important. You also see a fresh face in OJ Shields. That was part of our depth chart. Yes, people may say, how did he get there? But in terms of the skill set that we're looking for, the pace he brings, we got him there. He was one of the first guys over to Antigua, trying to control that pace with consistency, and putting him on a program that when he comes here to Ravi, he's in a position to execute some of the things that we have. The return of Kavim Hodge, in those conditions where he's shown that he could be an asset to us. You see the ball bouncing in Australia, in England, where he's had his successes. And when we plan, we always look at, players that do well in certain conditions with the opportunities that they get as well. So just like we did when we went to India, guys like Tagnoran Chandapal and Tejnoran Chandapal, and also Alec, so back with the skill set they brought to the conditions. And it's the same procedure and the same method that we use when we select our test sites. You probably would see also Anderson Phillip, back continuing. New Zealand, the conditions is not one that favors spin, as you would have seen the bowling in the ODI series and the way the teams were being selected. So Roston Chase and Warwickon becomes the spinners. But I do understand the challenges that New Zealand brings to us in these conditions. But I think with what's available and the preparation that we've put into this camp, building up to the test series, the experience gained from some of our batters in learning how to score test 100, what it requires. I'm really excited about, what is in store for us in New Zealand.
Thanks, Coach. Now, it won't take too long. I'll go straight into questions. And as usual, I'd ask each person, if you raise your hand, you'll be identified. Please identify yourself by your name and the house you're representing. And can you also please keep your questions down to 2 at this point in time? If we have time towards the end, we'll come back around for additional questions. First on the list here for me is Mr. Ian Watson. So Mr. Watson, you may go ahead and mute your mic and hold your question.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to Mr. Sammy.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I know you said in the past that you are targeting the 2027 not this World Test Championship, but to win the next World Test Championship. But we have played 5 matches so far. Based on what you have seen in these 5 matches against Australia and India, are you seeing progression from the team? Are you happy where the team is at? I know that you said that you were disappointed with the series in India, but there was some improvement in the second test. But are you happy with where the team is at right now?
Happy is a broad word. I think a more understanding of what the process will take. I have a greater understanding. Obviously, when we came in, we wanted to play a brand and improve in certain areas. What I saw in the last test as a batting group, because this was the area that was most challenging for us. What I saw as a batting group gives me confidence that if we continue to understand what it takes and how it takes to score runs in Test cricket, and what we saw when we apply these methods, right? How competitive and effective we could be against, top opposition. I want that type of consistency, So John, learning from, you need to be able to bat 4 hours at least to score Test 100 in Test cricket. And the experience you'd have gained in challenging conditions to do that. How can we repeat that? What processes did he take? And the work ethic and the work he put in before that test match, right? And to see the result right away, I'm optimistic about that. Obviously, the way that for us to win it, there's different skill sets that needs to be improved. Different players playing their roles in their positions in order for things to move smoothly. But yes, I am optimistic. If we continue that way, and again with the areas of concern where the mental side of things, now having a professional to deal with that, gives me hope.
And with this series, well, since early in the year, one person have stood out. You mentioned his name a few times, is the skipper, Shea Hope. Now, outside of Shea Hope, there's a lot of concern with the batting. Some people are saying that Shea Hope is single-handedly holding up this team. Are you concerned with the overall batting, Shea Hope aside? And based on what we saw in India, can we see Shea Hope continuing as a specialist batsman in the Test team?
Yeah, Shea Hope is a special case. You got to appreciate, his contributions in all formats as a batsman. And this is example that we have in the team for us. The other guys are really trying, but Shea Hope has, set himself because he demands greatness from himself, and he's very accountable for himself. And I said to the guys, the best gift you could give yourself is being accountable for you. And the way he goes about, his training, his preparation, his diet, it's a full circle. He wants to be a great player, and he's putting all the work in to do that. But we also have great potential in our team as batsmen. And the earlier we could, or one could identify that with great potential mixed with great work ethic and discipline, we could have a few more guys, being consistent and not a one score here and it's so far and few in between. But we have a lot of talent in here. You look at, the batsmen that we have, and the potential. But potential and discipline, when you mix these two, you have the remedy. And now we have the mental aspect. So yes, I'm looking forward to other batsmen stepping up, like you saw John Campbell did, believing more in himself. And that a John Campbell 100, that time in India was so inspiring to the other batsmen. They've seen Shea Hope do it so many times, so I think they saw the work John put in, the result he got, and hopefully that rubs off. We are preparing the best way that we can over here. The guys came in, they're already in Christchurch again, acclimatized, and Shea Hope will continue to be consistent because he's find a way and trust and hold himself accountable for that and the preparation he puts in. But the conversations is, if his team requires him to score 150 and 100 is not enough, he got to score 150. That's the way he thinks, right? But we continue to put in the work with the other guys, and the sooner they could see the results like John did in India, I think we'll be in a position to really challenge for that 2029 Test Championships.
Thanks a lot. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Dennis Health.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Dennis Heath from the Cricket Show USA. This question is for Coach Daren. Shea Hope is a valuable member of the team. However, my impression is that he's carrying a heavy load as wicketkeeper, early order batter, and captain. Have you considered rotating into the team a second wicketkeeper batter to share the wicket-keeping duties? And my second question is on Alzari and Shamar. How long to recovery?
We often speak about the workload with Shea Hope, and I'm assuming the wicketkeeper duties you speak of is in the white ball format.
I'm thinking of all formats.
Oh, well, if you notice, when the conversations when I took over this job in the test arena, and how we could get players that we think could be effective and play a role for us. The only thing Sheop requested of me and the selection group was, if he is to wicket keep, he can't bat in the top 4 because of the same workload you speak of. So we really wanted him back playing Test cricket and becoming an all-format player. And as you saw before that, he used to bat at 6 to give him some time after bowling with the wicket keeping. But as you saw in the last test, he moved up to number 4 and Imlak kept. So this is the formula we see going forward, in order to allow him to really focus on batting for us in the test team, whilst Imlak does the job of keeping. In the white ball arena, our conversations have always been he doesn't shy away, because of his work ethic, his discipline, the attention he pays to on his recovery. Even when, in Bangladesh, where Django played as the second wicket keeper, he was adamant that keeping would actually be less of a strain on him than him running around in the outfield. So it's conversations that we've had with him, but it's gonna be hard for us to convince Shehu that, if you do that, it will be easier. He doesn't see it that way. He sees it as him doing whatever it takes to help his team win as the leader, and that's his mindset, which I applaud it all the time. But we do speak about the medical team. How do we manage him? Some of the areas that we want to give him, his time off. He didn't play all the games in Bangladesh, the T20 series. And even here in New Zealand, when we planned those 5 T20s, he was not going to play all. But then you look at the games and he was like, Coach, I can't miss no games. My team needs me. So this is the man. And yes, a lot is on his shoulders. But at the moment, our conversations, he's not worried about that. He feels that he's capable of fulfilling those roles for us. But it's something we'll keep on monitoring, especially from a medical workload standpoint.
Thank you. Alzari and Shamar.
And Alzari, yes, Alzari is doing his rehab in Antigua. He saw a couple. Both of them saw a specialist on his way from Bangladesh. Stopped in England to see a shoulder specialist. And from the reports I'm seeing from the medical team, he was supposed to just rest the shoulder for a bit. I think whatever procedure that was done, or with the specialist, he was just supposed to not do anything strenuous, let the shoulder heal. And I think probably next week or so he started his physical rehab. So we're hoping. We know we won't see them in any cricket for the rest of the year, but our Future Tours program, we have Afghanistan in January before the World Cup. We have 6 games before the actual World Cup start. We have Afghanistan in January and South Africa just before the World Cup. So we pushing for these 2 guys to be available for selection going into the World Cup. So yeah, the rehab is coming on nicely, and I really hope that when we select the World Cup squad, they're in contention and in a position to be selected.
Thank you.
Mr. Lennox Aldred.
Thank you very much. Greetings, Coach. Lennox Aldred,
Greetings, Lennox.
Kana and Gleaner. Coach, a lot of people here in Jamaica are still a bit surprised about Shields' selection. I know you had mentioned that it was kind of under the radar, so to speak. So
Yeah.
just want you to explain his emergence, because I know that there probably would be a lot of fast bowlers ahead of him, and talk about what you have seen in him and why his inclusion.
Yeah, over the years, his name has always been one in our depth chart. Jamal would tell you that in terms of what we're looking for. When we look at fast bowlers, there are a couple disciplines we look at. Obviously pace, control, and stuff like that. He comes in our fast bowlers that are there. Remember, we have a couple guys injured. When we look at the pace aspect that you need to really give that sort of effectiveness against quality batters. And when we lost Sherman, we lost Alzari, we have Jaden here, and then we look at the makeup of our bowling unit. We needed that person that could bowl that 88, 85 plus miles per hour. OJ Shields is one of the few people who actually do that in the Caribbean. And we look at his numbers, and he's raw in terms of being selected, but he really fit that description. When you look at what we had left, we had Anderson Phillips, Kemar Roach, Johan Lane, who's quite raw and young. So we look at areas where we could see, okay, how can we put some pressure? And that's where OJ Shields came in with what he's done so far in first class or regional cricket. And that's hence the reason why we got him very early in the academy to start preparing him, to be able to fit a role for us in the test team. And from reports from Jamal and the camp, what Ram and the others, Coach Ram and the others from the academy was able to do, preparing him, getting the loads that would be enable to be able to bowl free spells in Test cricket. That's how we came about. And the reality, Lennox, is selecting from what you have. It's an area that we've always spoken about. We have, in Kemar, in Shoma, Azari, and Jaden, we have top 30 fast bowlers in world cricket. Jaden Sales in the top 10, Azari, Joseph not far from him, Shoma not far as well. But we also have to find ways. We always say, if one of these guys injured, when we got to load manage them, who are the next guys? And in doing that process, that's what Jamal has been, putting in place as a talent ID to identify who are the guys that would come in and contribute in similar roles for our test team. And this is, with what we face now, this is how we had to go about doing it from the resources that we have.
All right, one more from me. Brandon King, not in the greatest of forms, but in the squad. What do you expect of him?
Yeah, Brandon is a yeah, it's a funny. It's not funny, but it's been a challenge in terms of the numbers. But he's one of the more experienced guys we have. Um, One of the few who've actually, been in those conditions. He's still in the team. All, one of the reasons why he's still there in Test cricket. Obviously, Shehu played in his position um, at number 4, but we also see a dual role for Brandon in the Test team. If you notice, we have Campbell and Tage at the opening spot. It's also a role that we've spoken to Brandon about doing in the future. So he's out here working, and he's been preparing uh, since he wasn't in the ODI series. He's been preparing in the conditions, just in case called upon for the Test series.
All right, coach. All the best, man.
Thank you very much.
Joe Billy.
Hi, good day.
Good day.
Hope all is well. Calling concerning to the recalls of Kemar Roach and Kevin Hodge. Firstly, with regards to Roach, Roach is the 5th highest wicket taker for West Indies in Test cricket, but it may be seen by some that he was harshly treated for the Australia series, even though the Joseph Pay and Seals did well. For the India series, he was not called upon when both Josephs were injured, but he was only called upon for the New Zealand series. Do you think that it may be a slight on Roach, his achievements, what he has accomplished for West Indies cricket, that he has been relegated to basically a replacement player? That's number one. And number two, with regard to Kevin Hodge, that's a question I asked you some weeks ago regarding Athenaeus, when you mentioned that they were being left out. Well, it was hinted that they were being left out of the Australia series because of the averages. They haven't played first. Hodge hasn't played first class cricket since, but he's back in the team. And basically, the entire middle order players who are averaging over 20, between 20 and 20, between 20 and 30 in Test cricket. So, do you think that maybe Hodge and all might have been harshly treated for the Australia series? Thanks so much.
I don't think we don't go about, treating players harshly. I think when we select squads, we look at the opposition, we look at the conditions. I've said it many times before in the process of selection. We look at the roles that is required to be played. And when I came in, like I said, the brand we were looking to play required the personnel to fulfill those roles. And when we look at the series ahead, we always saw, okay, when we get to India, we will need a certain skill set with regards to speed. And when we come to New Zealand, we need a certain skill set when it regards to playing bounce and seam and swing as a batter. And Jamal could correct me, but even when we look at the schedule, when we started speaking about New Zealand and these conditions, Kevin Hodge was always a topic. When we thought of India, we thought Alec Athenaeus with his skill set to spin was always a topic. When we're in the Caribbean, with all the guys fit and ready, and again, broadening the pool of players, especially from a fast bowling department. We didn't have, Kemar selected for those conditions, right? And it was not. Some may see it as harsh, but it's just the plans that we have and the conversations that we had with Kemar as well. Now people will say, okay, now he's here. and in hindsight, it probably was a harsh treatment, and that's not how we go about. Now we see New Zealand conditions, the skill set Kemar brings, as well as experience. In the absence of Shoma and Azari, he was always going to be, part of the discussion in terms of a role, and that's what he's there. And I remember when I called Kemar, he was very optimistic about playing for West Indies. He still is, and hopefully he comes there and lead the attack with Jaden, and the experience. From all reports in the camp, he was very good amongst the group, and that is what you expect from a senior player. Again, we would select guys, and we will never get everything right. But when we select guys, it's always from a place of the roles that we see fit, and then the personnel there to fulfill those roles.
All right, next I'll go on to Mr. Phillips Puna.
Good afternoon. Good morning, Daren. Thanks, Randy, for the invitation. Daren, just to correct a bit of stats there. Kemar is actually number 22 in the World Test bowling, which puts him just behind Shamar at 17 and Jaden at 18. Alzari is actually at 29 with Warwick at 30. So that's just a bit of a correction. It's Kemar's highest ranking is actually the highest of any bowler in the present squad. He went up as high as 781 bowling points in 2019. So he's by some distance the highest rank historically in the squad. But that's not the point. You mentioned you expect him to lead the bowling attack alongside Jaden in New Zealand, which would suggest that he will leapfrog young Philip in terms of getting the new ball. Having the director of cricket said earlier this year that we've moved on, obviously we've now moved back. Like, what is it about Kemar that brought him back? Because you could have exercised other options. So what was it about his skill set, his experience, his ability that brought him back? And the other question I want to ask is, the injuries are obviously a concern for everybody. I know you're obviously very worried about young fast bowlers going down. But can you give us an idea of these injuries? Because we were hearing stress fractures of Jediah Blades and young Simmons, and some information suggests rather that that's not the case. So could you roll out for us the injuries, the rehab, and when do you expect to see these young fast bowlers back in West Indies colours? Thank you very much.
When the injuries, Puda, I'm not. You would have to get the medical team to really go into details on the specifics of the injuries. The reports that come to me, obviously certain scans and stuff were done, and nobody wants guys to be injured. But it's something that I know the discussions are happening in how we could, prevent such. But Dr. Byam and the medical team would be more privy to that in-depth discussion. You mentioned the director said move on from Kemar. I'm not sure if that's totally correct. But again, we're not in a position to move on from a player until the player is retired. Number one, the selection panel or process during the home series with who was available to us and the composition of the squad. It was, and obviously Kemar's previous performances leading into that that series in Australia, when you had Azari, Shuma, and Jaden. Obviously, what they went on to do in the home series, it justified what we were looking for. But Kemar was never really one that was written off. Yes, probably would say if everything went according to plan, yeah, it would be more challenging if when you give guys opportunities, if they grab it. Kemar, I wouldn't select Kemar in a team if I don't expect him to play. And the opportunities given to the others, with the lack of our experience in Joseph and the two Josephs, Kemar now comes in with that experience, and again, if we have Jaden, Kemar leading the attack, and when I say leading the attack in terms of experience, and Kemar probably, out of all the fast bowlers, would probably be the only one who've had experience in New Zealand in a test match as well. So it's not, it may be harsh in hindsight because he's back, but in our minds, we never wrote off Kemar, from West. He's like I said when I spoke to him, he's still very much in a mood to play for West Indies and want to contribute. And hopefully he comes in and he does that. And if he does that and everybody say, yo, you know what, he proved the selection wrong, and then that is a place we would love to be, where we could have guys performing and proving people wrong. So I really wish he comes there and put on a show, and then afterwards he tell me, coach, you know what, I should have been there. I would love that actually.
So what happens when he performs? Because he will perform. He's just quality. When he performs in New Zealand, and then you go next year, you play at home next year, having not had him as fit for purpose for home series this year, and you come back next year on the same, flat, turgid Caribbean pitches. What do you do? Do you, when Alzari's fit, Shamar is fit, Jaden is fit, Kemar is fit, Anderson is fit, and Lane is fit? What do you do?
It gives me a great list to pick from. That's what it does. It gives me, it fulfills some of the things Jamal has been trying to do, broaden our pool. So if we have a performing Lane, a performing Anderson, a performing Kemar, and then we have the services of Azari and Shoma back in the squad, it puts West Indies fast bowling unit in a great position to select from.
And the advert for the batting consultant that was put out yesterday, did you have a hand in developing that framework? Is it a role that you want to see filled soon as possible? And what kind of person are you looking for? Are you looking for a legend who's made 10,000 international runs, or are you looking for an absolute batting specialist who knows the in and out of batsmanship and where we go with this week? Because we're not making the 500 test runs that we want to make, and we don't have batsmen, as you said, that are batting 4.5 hours for a test 100. Craig isn't there. So what sort of coaching consultant are you looking for? Are you looking for Desmond Haynes, or are you looking for Toby Radford?
We've put out we've advertised the position, and yes, it's a conversation that myself and the director have had. If you've noticed, over the last 18 months or 12 months, we've had two group of players going to the Chennai Academy, where specific tactical work is being done. to our players, with our players. And we want to create that for us in the Caribbean. That role would be one, where our batters could really go out and get the technical aspect of batting right, work on deficiencies and stuff like that. So whether you score 10,000 runs or not, you must have the what from what the conversations we've had, you must have that know-how to teach that sort of work. So by the time guys get on tour, or when guys leave tours, we could say, hey, report to Joe Black at the High Performance Center or the academy and continue to work on that. And I'm really excited, because these are things that we spoke about when I took on the job. Some of the things that the director wants to see happening, and now it's not just talking about it, but putting measures in place for us to be better. And so far, that 3-week preparation with the guys in Antigua, building into a series, that is a step in the right direction. Using the academy facilities to prepare international players, that is a step in the right direction. Broadening the pool, the work Jamal is doing, trying to put the depth charts in place. Identifying talent, that is something in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it boils down to obviously a proper system that we are trying to fix, and creating those avenues where our players could excel and mimic some of the things that the top 2-3 teams are doing so easily in their field, and implement it here in ours, as challenging as it might be, Spoons.
All right.
Thank you so much, Daren. Really appreciate it. Thank you as always.
Thank you.
Mr. Ronnie Bennett, you will be our final set of questions. I think cognizant that the coach and team do have training this morning in New Zealand. Bennett? We're not hearing you if you're there, Randy. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Yep, still not hearing you.
Hey, good afternoon. Hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Right. Sorry, my apologies. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I just have one question. Is this a bit of a follow-up from Philip's question earlier? We've seen over the last couple of years in the West Indies, the bowling department kind of come on by leaps and bounds. When Alzari, Shamar, Jaden, when they're healthy, they're among some of the best fast bowlers in the world. But there has always been some concern in terms of the West Indies batting, especially in the test format. In recent times, there have been some calls, I should say, for maybe a move in another direction in terms of the batting coach. As head coach, Dari, are you satisfied with the work of Floyd Riffer in his capacity as batting coach, concerning the performances of the team, especially in the test format? Thanks a lot.
You put a gun to my head, Randy. No, but look, I have seen Floyd Riffer work tirelessly every single day at training. The effort he puts, the attention he puts to detail, trying to get our guys ready. And he has had little days of joy. It's just like me, just like Avinash, just like Rayon Griffith. his days of joy as a batting coach has been few and far between. But we understand our jobs as coaches. It's a performance-driven job that we rely heavily on player performance. And even when player performance comes, it's not really attributed to the work of the coaches. You understand? But I see a man that is dedicated, preparing guys every single day. You know, I could make an example. Over the last year, Rutherford, Casey Carty, you know, when we started and the work that had to be done and the manner and the roles that we wanted done for with those guys to be effective. And I saw Floyd taking Rutherford relentlessly and Casey Carty and starting the work on areas that pertains to their role and how they want to play. And what I saw from Casey Carty, what I saw from Rutherford during that year, 2024, when he made the ODI Team of the Year. And I never heard, not one time, the work that Floyd did with these players. Right? I never heard that. I see my analysts working 24 hours, making sure the information is being put together, the data, every single word. He's putting out videos on, you know, on what you have to do. I watch the videos and I say, wow, if I was a player now, you know, cricket would be made so simple. I have a man talking to me. This is where you have to bowl, so and so. When you do this is, and every single member of my staff take their job very seriously and put in the work. And we do understand that even though we've put in the work, it takes our guys to go out and execute. And when for us we watch games like this tour in New Zealand and see that every single game we've been in a position to win. And when those last moments in the game where we got to make critical decisions under pressure, we falter. We travel day after day again, we go out and we put in that same amount of work. And I say all this to say, I believe in Floyd. I believe in Avi. I believe in Griff. I believe in all my players. And we will continue to do all that we can so that our players could be glorified when they do well. And behind the curtains and behind the scenes, I give Floyd a little pat on the back when everybody calls for Rutherford head. And Floyd says, Gaffer, he's putting in so much work in the nets. Rutherford, the things we speak about, he just got to apply. And then he sees Rutherford go on and really religiously applies it and scores a 50. And you could see the big sigh of relief on Floyd's face. You guys sit behind the scenes and write and say all kind of things, really not knowing the days and the ins and outs of what it takes to be a coach for West Indies. And it is a really hard job, especially when it is result oriented and we are not getting it. But I could assure you, it is not through the lack of efforts and planning that goes into what we do. And the addition, like I said earlier, with the mental skills coach or the performance coach, I think we could, with the continuous work that we'll be doing, because if you can't win if you don't put yourself in a position to win, right? But I will continue to trust the process, and we as a group will continue to trust the process, and we just instilling that in our players, that you are good enough, you continue to put the work, proper preparation prevents poor performance, and that's all we're going to continue doing, and hopefully the results come in that you guys could write about and understand what it takes to be where we are in our positions.
I just have one final question from one new journalist, Dev, from Carter Point. You go ahead and pose your question as quickly as possible. Barry might be trying to get you guys out as quickly as possible. Are you there, Dev?
You muted, Dev.
Am I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you, Daren, for giving me a chance to speak with you. It's an honor. It's absolutely an honor to speak with you. I've been a huge fan of West Indies and of yourself. And thank you, Mr. Randy, for allowing me this question. I'll just keep it quick. So, of the 284 test wickets that Mr. Kemar Roach has taken so ardently, diligently, and wonderfully, 36 have come in test match cricket against New Zealand. It's very heartening to see such a tireless workhorse of West Indies cricket back. How are you feeling? How do you think he's preparing for the series? And what can we, as diehard fans, especially me, who has been scolded in for all his life by his parents, that why do you support West Indies by being an Indian? And I always say, because I was born to support Brian Lara and team. What can I, as a fan, look forward to, Daren?
Thank you, Dev. You. When I hear folks like you, it puts a smile on my face. Yeah, and Kemar have done really well against New Zealand, like you rightfully so say. I'm really excited because when you miss out on two of your leading guys over the last year, and you could rely on somebody of the experience of Kemar in conditions that are favorable to him with his experience. It gives you the hope of, hey, we can compete, we can be effective, and we could push through for victories. And I can't wait. The ODI series finishes tomorrow. We head off to Christchurch. We got 9 days in between the last ODI and the first test. We have a 2-day practice match in between. And we're going to work and continue the work that Jamal and these guys have already started preparing them for. And now we're going to test them in these conditions, preparing them for the test match. So I expect to see a motivated Kemar Roach, but more importantly, a disciplined Kemar Roach, because it will take a lot of discipline from not only Kemar, but from our batters, our bowlers. It will take a lot of discipline to stick to the plans and the processes that we have to implement in order to be successful here in New Zealand. And I hope when we are ticking those boxes in those disciplines, you could be happy and smile while watching.
Right. Rally always. Thank you so much.